let's shift over to talking about radical transparency. You really did some things that were uh, quite unusual during your time as the CEO. The dioxane, is that how you
Dioxin.
dioxin episode? And that really came to a head at West, right?
Yep.
And it's really one of the more compelling stories in your book. You're walking into a hostile press conference to publicly admit your company screwed up, and with no idea how to fix it yet. And I'm just what gave you the well, first of all, give us some context around it. Give us some details around that story
Sure.
because it's really
Sure.
important. But also then answer the question, what gave you the confidence that radical transparency would save the brand rather than destroy it? And is there a moment when transparency can actually go too far?
Right. So, dioxane is a chemical that is in the product because of a chemical reaction between two different chemicals. So it's not something you add into your formula. It's something that is there, and it's why it's never disclosed by anybody because it's not a technical ingredient. And in addition to that, we had the lowest levels of any product on the marketplace. And companies like Johnson and Johnson's baby shampoo had levels that were 10 or 20 times higher than ours. So in part, we rationalized not talking about it because we were doing a better job than everybody else was. And we were on the road to eliminating it from our products. But nevertheless, the reality is it was there. And in the media, either you have it or you don't have it, and there's not a lot of room for gray area. And so one nonprofit tested a whole bunch of products, mostly laundry detergents, but some baby shampoos as well. And even though we were the least bad on the list, we were still on the list. And we had failed to be as transparent as we needed to be with our stakeholders and our customers. And so on the front page of the LA Times was a story about, this green company is selling products with toxic ingredients. Just black and white. Doesn't matter how much there is in it. It was just black and white. And it was the worst thing that could ever happen to us because it damaged the trust that we had earned. And so there was, as you mentioned, this press conference where the people who ran the tests were talking to the media about what they found. And I felt that I needed to show up at that press release. And if I had the opportunity, which I didn't know that I would have, to apologize to everybody about what we had done and how we had failed to follow our own values. There was no one else from the 100 companies that were tested that showed up at that press conference. And we committed not only to solving the problem within the next 18 months, but teaching every other company that wanted to how to do that. And I think it was in part our willingness to acknowledge that we had done something that we shouldn't have done that saved our reputation from being tarnished as much as it might have. But the reality is every company makes mistakes and no one likes to talk about them. But consumers know better. They know that companies aren't perfect. All companies do things they shouldn't do. All companies make mistakes. And unfortunately, we have a culture in the business community of hiding those things rather than being transparent about them. And we believed that there was no way to build the brand that we wanted to build and develop the kind of trust that we wanted to have without being transparent and radically transparent with our customers, as painful as that sometimes was.
Mhm. Is there a moment when transparency goes too far? I mean, where do you draw a line with that, or is it
Yeah,
totally case dependent?
I think it's sort of case by case. But for example, we chose not to publish everybody's salaries. We decided that we would let people know what brackets they were in, but not divulge exactly how much they were making. Some companies have done that even though we have not. I'll tell you a crazy story. I mean, limits to transparency. Someone once got a hold of my American Express card and Xeroxed it and shared it with the rest of the company. And I ended up in a meeting where I had to defend why I took John out to lunch and spent $25. Why, when I took Mary out to lunch, I spent $35. How was that fair? How was I treating them in the right way? And I said, this is not a good or productive conversation. This commitment to transparency has gone a little too far in this case. And so there are boundaries and limitations that I think you need to create, but you should be transparent about what those boundaries are. Don't just hide the fact that you're not telling someone that what they might want to know, but let them know that you've decided to do that.